Welcome to the Clean Library Podcast, where content meets conscience. We believe there are millions of you readers out there desperately searching for a better way to find clean content. Each episode, we will introduce you to a new author of clean books, giving you, your family, and your friends clean options.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marcus Williams, and I'm here with co-host Brock Morris. And today we have another special guest, an author and aspiring filmmaker, Erin Zelene. Erin loves stories. She's always had a passion for storytelling through writing or video production. Erin dreams of being an author and filmmaker. Currently, she is a full-time college student majoring in film and business, and when she's not doing homework or hanging with friends, she's working on her author career. Last October, Erin published her first book, the YA fantasy called The Legends of Elmra Earth, currently on her way to publish her sequel novel later this year. Welcome, Erin. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're excited today to talk to Erin as a college student who's already published a book, and she's working on how she wants to combine writing and filmmaking and everything. So it's going to be a great conversation. But first, we need to do our two truths and a lie. So let me share with you what Erin is trying to trick us with today. First, I have gone dumpster diving twice. Second, I've ridden in the back of a police cruiser 3 times. Third, I got my driver's license at age 19. So dumpster diving, ride in the back of a police cruiser, or driver's license at age 19. So we will be trying to figure out which one of those is the lie as we go through today.
Yeah, there are a lot of different circumstances that can surround each one of those. So I'll be interested to see if we can call that out through the conversation. So
absolutely. Challenge accepted.
Absolutely.
So tell us how, as a full-time student, and how did you get to this point where you've actually published your first book? Like, how did all that happen?
Yeah, it was definitely not an easy process, but my whole life I've always wanted to be an author. And The Legends of Emerald Earth, I started writing that as a senior in high school, and it just started off as like a short story for my best friend's birthday at the time. And then I was like, wait, this could turn into a whole actual book. And it wasn't the first book I thought I would publish, because I started writing other books also in high school. But as I worked on this book for several years, I was like, you know what, this is going to be my first one. And I wouldn't call myself a self-control freak, but I really like the prospects of being able to control the publishing process, even though that is a lot more work for myself. And but it was definitely hard to find time, and it took a lot longer than I anticipated. But with enough, work, time, and dedication, I was able to come out with my first book, even though I am super busy with like college and work and all that fun stuff.
That's awesome. Congratulations. So did you decide to self-publish, or did you try to go the traditional publishing route first?
I decided to self-publish because I want to start my own indie publishing house. And so technically my book is published by my indie publishing house, but that's also me at the same time, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So with that publishing house, are you planning on just keeping that kind of the umbrella for your books, or do you want to expand and help other authors publish?
My goal for right now is to kind of like set up my publishing house and just publish my books for now until I can really nail the publishing process. And I'm also considering getting my master's degree in publishing. There's a college that I was looking at to do that, but currently I'm like, I want to keep it to myself and learn how to do it all first, and then I can start helping other authors succeed in their dreams.
That's cool. So one of your the things you're studying is business. Is that helping you in this journey at all, do you think?
Absolutely. My I've met people who have taught me a lot, and I've learned about marketing, and I've learned a lot about like the business world. And I think having this knowledge will help me in setting up just a business in general. But it definitely has helped a lot.
Did you
Along
have
those same,
something?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Along those same lines, Erin, it's interesting from a filmmaker standpoint too. Are there parallels that you see in your path to becoming a filmmaker that also relate to being an author, and how that one might help the other that you can share with us?
The thing I love about being a writer and filmmaker is that I can decide like which avenue is the best to tell the story that I want to tell. But when it comes to the processes of writing and the processes of filmmaking, they're quite different because filmmaking is such a huge collaborative effort. And I feel like writing, like, and publishing, it's definitely a lot smaller, but with filmmaking, it's like a huge team and huge group effort because you just need people there with pretty much almost every single step of the way, besides like maybe just the writing part. When you're author, you just, the big focus a lot is the writing of it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. You had mentioned earlier that it took you a lot longer than you had thought to sort of get through this process the first time. Did any one of those three rides in the back of a police cruiser, did that affect that? Is that why the length? I mean, it could be hard to write in jail. I don't know.
Uh,
Well, I have never been to jail, so that might give you a little
Fair enough.
hint.
Fair enough.
Um, but yeah, no, there was no police involved with delaying the process.
Good to know. Good to know. Just
that-
check it. I just wanted to clear that up.
in your, usual blunt style there.
Very subtle. Yeah, very subtle. That's what I go for.
There we go. So on your website, you actually have made a video um, about the book. So tell us how was that process?
Quite hard. I think just currently, like, I'm working with like zero budget when it comes to like marketing, right?
Right.
And with filmmaking, like, to get the kind of quality you want, you have to put in costs and a lot of time. And the making a book trailer for my book was really, really like, it was quite a hard process because it's like I couldn't hire actors. Everyone was volunteers. It was hard to be an actor and director and
Mhm.
also like cinematographer, and and it's not a lot of people have time to help with these kind of projects, but I did the best that I could with the very like no equipment that I had too.
Mhm.
um and so it's like I wish I could have been able to like have the proper equipment and the proper team for it, but I think it still turned out pretty decent for what I had to work with.
That's cool. I think every author imagines, their book as the next big movie or Netflix series, and who would play this character, and so just a trailer, it seems like that would have been a lot of fun to kind of bring those characters to life, even in that limited scope.
It
So
was
that's
it
cool.
was a lot of fun.
And it's great because I think it relates a lot to that sort of entrepreneurial spirit that you talked about earlier. The work it takes to self-publish, the work that it took you to take on. Hey, I'm going to play with this. I'm going to make my own film just to see what that's like. I think that's very inspirational. I love that.
So at some point, you made the decision to keep your book clean. How did with everything that's out there, all the popular books and the content that you can find in those bestsellers, how did you come to the decision to keep your books clean?
Personally, I've just never enjoyed like reading a whole bunch of swear words or spice. Like that's just not something that I jive with at all. But I don't know. I go to books and movies to escape from the world, and it kind of, I don't know. I like to try to keep my mind clear and open. And I feel like putting a bunch of, I don't know how to phrase it.
Graphic content, right?
Yeah, graphic content.
Yeah. So in the film world, there's a very like a set rules and guidelines on what you can include for this rating and that rating, and it seems to be always shifting a little bit. You can add more and more and more, but in the book world, we don't really have that. Do you think that's something that would help in the book world, and is that even reasonable or doable?
I think it would definitely help if there was some sort of like rating system for books. Be again, people's perception of what is appropriate to put into a book has changed so much over, even just the past like century or so. And that's why I really wanted to start a publishing house, Mount Creation Publishing. I wanted to provide a place where there is a set standard for all the books, that they're all going to be swear word free, spice free, no like excessive like violence or, goriness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just so that there is a place that people can come and buy books and know that there isn't going to be a risk of having there be something in it without there being surprises, I guess.
Do you think that there is a challenge in the marketplace being seen as a clean author?
I think it is it is it is it is a difficult process to, I guess, be like a known clean author, because because I feel like with social media, like what's being pushed is not necessarily aligned with the values that I want to like portray. But I also think it can also be beneficial that we can build an audience that like is more dedicated and more loyal to you than versus just making something that is pleases everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, as an author myself, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but it's challenging at times when you're trying to write a scene and it seems like the easy way to write it is to include the words, the swear words, or just because that's easier, because it's just obvious. Do you find it difficult to create complex or engaging scenery or content without using those words, to keeping it clean, or is it not a challenge for you at all?
I don't really find it a challenge personally myself, but that's just because it's not really super incorporated into my everyday life. Plus, I write fantasy, and the world is so different, anyways, where I can use I have like fun little phrases that my characters say instead,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be just as like people. I've heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, but using these kind of words will really impact your readers," and I'm like, I'm going to impact my readers with my story and with the things that are going on. Like the readers are going to be invested in the characters, that they're not going to care what words are not included.
Mm-hmm. So with your fantasy world, what inspired it? Where did you get all your ideas from?
A lot of my ideas come from dreams. They come from I've just always loved fantasy. I love just exploring things that are not too like not just everyday things. I feel like my book is like Middle Earth kind of vibes, where it's just like, you know, it's its own complete world. There's elves, there's like different like elements, and it's just it's just such a fun place to explore.
So would you say Middle Earth, that world, is one of your inspirations, because those are the kind of books that you like to read, or is this like, I don't know, for me, when I'm writing a story, sometimes I don't even know where these ideas are coming from. Like, this is there are times when I've written something that was not something I would normally think about, or wouldn't be just my, I don't know. Does that make any sense to you? Because, like,
No,
so
absolutely.
I try to explore that same question myself. Where does this inspiration come from? And I sometimes I don't know. So that's why I'm always interested in finding out if other authors can answer that question, because I don't know that I always can.
I know that is a really hard question. I get a question a lot of like what books you take inspiration from, and I kind of have a terrible secret. I'm a really bad reader. I so I feel like my inspiration, like I do kind of take inspiration from like I guess like The Hobbit or like The Lord of the Rings, but it's not like not but I try like I kind of just kind of it's kind of like there's like a kind of basis of like, yeah, there's going to be elves and dwarves and these different fantasy creatures. But then I also take inspiration from like, you know, fantasy video games that I watched my dad play when I was growing up and that I play now. Or, you know, it's just kind of little bits and pieces, a different world, but a lot of it is just comes from my own desire to explore a whole new world and create a whole new world, new magic systems that I haven't seen before. You know, just it's just a place for me to create because that's what I
Cool.
love to do.
You're like, we've talked to people who their first book, it took them 20 years, or 10 years to get done. In comparison, you were pretty quick. Um, what would you tell your senior in high school self if you could go back and tell her something, give her advice on publishing this first book?
I would tell her to not be afraid to take her time. I feel like growing up, I always felt so much pressure to like figure out everything in my life and to, you know, I would be watching these people online on like YouTube where they were 19 and they had like millions of followers. And I kind of just felt like I was behind, even though, like, you know, if you think grand picture, it's, you know, people have a whole lifetime to be able to write and be able to see their dreams successful. But I felt such a rush to figure things out and to just, you know, figure out how to publish a book and make it happen. And I did. And I kind of wish I did take just a tiny bit more time because with my book launch, I was like in the middle of the crazy semester. I'm like, I wish I would have had more time to really properly prepare for
Hmm.
a book launch. But I just tell her, like, don't be afraid to take your time.
That's great advice. Uh, I think sometimes we do fall into that trap where we think we got to get stuff out and push it and push it and push it. Um, and it's really important, especially with the creative work, that you're happy with it. Like, you don't want to wait forever and be so stuck in being perfect that you never release it. But at the same time, you want it to say what you want it to say. You want people to see what it is you're trying to create. And there's a balance there, I think.
That kind of relates also to a topic we've discussed with several of our guests that I'd love to get your take on, Erin, which is this concept of not letting sort of the perfect get in the way of something good, right? And how sometimes that takes a lot of effort. Is there any specific approach you have to allowing yourself to one, either take the time or to not get hung up on trying to produce this perfect version of something before you sort of let it out into the wild? What's your approach to that?
Mm-hmm. My approach to it is just I've kind of had to teach myself to not like edit as I go because you can easily just get into like, well, this scene isn't perfect, you know, reword. I like to just focus on writing the story first, let me explore it, and then go back and then just add more and then just keep working on it until I feel like I craft a story. And I feel like one of the biggest helps to me personally is hiring a book editor where my book editor that I've been working with, Bailey Condi, she is so great. And she, like, we kind of did first, like, what do you call it? Kind of like she like read through my book twice and just gave me like little notes about how she felt about the entire book itself before
Hmm.
diving into the whole editing process. And that for me, having someone just like read my book start to finish, and kind of it gave me the validation that, like, yes, this is a good book. And for me, that's all I really needed, because I really felt like I spent years writing this book, and I, I always wondered, oh, is it good enough? Are people actually going to like it? But once I
Yeah.
kind of received that validation of, like, yes, there's something here. Let's work on making it, even better. You just have to kind of let go of that fear of, will people like it? Because truth
Yeah.
is, people are not going to like it, but there are going to be people who do. And I
Right.
like it. I love it. I'm like the biggest fan of my book.
Yeah, and that's a great point because I remember one of my books, I created an audiobook for it and kind of left it, and then I went back and listened to it months later, and at the end I had this kind of, I don't know if it's an epiphany or what, but I said, "You know what? I actually like this. Like, this was a good book."
Mhm.
and and that's a great feeling. And like, what's the point of creating art if you don't like it yourself?
Exactly.
You know? Um, so do you, well, I guess since I mentioned audiobooks, do you have an audiobook or are you working on it? Is that in the plans?
Absolutely. That's what I'm actually, my goal for May is to finish my audiobook, because I started it, like, working on it over a year ago,
Hmm.
and I realized, because I'm doing it myself, and I've done lots of theater and drama and such. And so
Yeah.
it's like I have the acting experience and I feel confident in my ability to make a good audiobook, but it's just so much, like, it's such a longer process than I anticipated.
Yes.
But I think it'd definitely be worth making an audiobook for.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. For you, what's the hardest part?
I think a lot of it is just like not only just sitting down and doing it, but also like kind of having to need to have that discipline. But also, I like live in an apartment building, and there's
Mhm.
lots of people and there's lots of noise, like almost all
Yeah.
the time, by a busy street. And so I feel like I only have small windows of opportunity to record when it's not
Yeah.
super busy and noisy. And so I feel like that's kind of frustrating to work around.
Yeah. How about your voice? Do you find your voice gets tired?
I think so. And especially, I feel like when I first started working on my book, I was like sick so much. And so I'm like, oh, I can't record because I'm
Yeah.
sick, you know? So that's also hard.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest when I was doing mine was like I could do a couple chapters and then my voice was just, you could you could hear the quality change, and I don't you don't
Mhm.
want every chapter to sound different. So it was frustrating. I could only work for a couple hours a day when I
Yeah.
really, and when I all I wanted to do was just work all, get it done, but I couldn't because my voice wouldn't, the instrument wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah.
That that was tough. So we've skirted around your book and themes and stuff, but tell us more about the story.
Absolutely. It's like about the chosen ones fulfilling the prophecy, but by doing so, unleashing the wrath of a secret society of dark elves who want to take over the world. And it's a lot of fun because I didn't want to like just do a whole book around a prophecy
Hmm.
thing, because I feel like there's a lot of books that are kind of in that. But I thought, like, what if they fulfill the prophecy like at the beginning, and but just have things end up going totally crazy afterwards. And that was so much fun. A really close friend of mine, he was reading it and he's like, wait, what's the rest of the book about if they fulfill the prophecy right at the beginning? I'm like, the consequences.
That's a great idea. Every book is about the quest, and yours is about what happens after the quest.
Hmm.
I love that. That's great. And so, book two, are you working on a book two?
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm currently working on right now. And it is so much fun. It's like time travel shenanigans, and
Okay.
it's a lot of fun. It's so great, and I'm so excited to like. I really am hoping that I can be able to have it come out later this fall.
your process for writing, especially since there are multiple books, have you outlined the whole thing out, or are you more of a story creates itself as it goes type person?
I feel like I'm kind of a bit of both. When I got done writing this first book, I just knew, I'm like, this can't be all there is to this world. I was not ready to like let it go in my
Mm-hmm.
heart. And then these ideas came to me, and then an idea for a third book came to mind, and I'm like, let's do it. And so it's kind of like I have a general idea that I start with, a basic outline, but then I let myself discover the story as I go, and then I get more ideas. And it might lengthen the writing process time just a little bit because you have to go back and make sure to, lots of editing, but I definitely think it's worth it, and it's the fun. I have so much fun with that part of the story writing process.
Yeah, that's great. It's definitely easier to do when you're having fun doing it, I think. So, what is your biggest challenge in finding readers and marketing yourself?
I think the hardest part is just getting my name out there. It's hard to fight against, like, social media algorithms, and actually like finding the readers who are interested in reading my book and also buying it. And I'm trying to figure out that marketing process, but I'm allowing myself to take it slow because I feel like it's so easy to see, like, all these things that authors do to market their books, and it can feel like a whole mountain. And so I'm like, I'm just going to take one step at a time, let myself discover what works, what doesn't work, and just, not be afraid to be small right now and
Mm-hmm.
just slowly build an audience.
I think that's great advice, especially just when there's so much, like, do I go on TikTok? Do I go on Instagram, Facebook? Where do I go to in-person fairs? Just allowing yourself the time to find where your audience lives and not stressing about it. That's so wise. I think is the right word for it. It's just smart and takes off so much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I've had multiple marketers contact me and say, for this price, we'll market your book, we'll get you all these readers, and you know, I guess you could do that. Like, you could spend time and money on marketing, or you could slowly let your tribe grow and develop, and build this fan base around your book. So I think that's something you're doing that's very wise, and other authors who have much more experience and a lot more years can learn from that advice. Absolutely. I think that's great advice.
Just can get so overwhelming so fast. And so it's like, it's better to take it slow and be consistent than it is to try to focus on everything all at once.
Right. And if the fun part is the writing and creating, and if you're so focused on the marketing that it takes away from the fun or the enjoyment, I mean, you have to do it, right? Every job
Yeah.
has things you have to do that aren't fun and are a pain, but this is a creative process, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to keep those creative juices flowing in order for the creative process to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any other clean authors out there that you would recommend to our listeners?
Absolutely. I I've been make or as I've dived more into the writing community, I've slowly started been making friends, and they've been writing great clean books. I would suggest maybe like E.A. Winters, um, C.L. Carlson. They are other clean authors, and I feel like there's so many. Um, but I definitely would like on TikTok, there's like a whole clean book writing community, and I feel like that's a great place to look when you're trying to find clean books to read, because there's surprisingly amount of authors who do write clean, who are not afraid that they say that they write clean, because
Mm-hmm.
they want to do that as well, and I think you can definitely find it out there.
Do you think it's a the traditional publishers are interested in that clean material, or do you really have to go indie if you want to be clean?
I think I think indie is kind of where I've seen the most like authors who are clean. I'm sure that there are more traditional published authors who are clean, but I've noticed with like I don't know, it's just kind of hard to tell because you don't really always know when you're seeing an advertisement for a book what those contents are.
Yeah.
Because big publishers, that's their whole thing. That's why people like to be traditionally published, because they have a big hand in helping you getting that book out there and help market that book. But I feel like I don't really know of any publishing companies that have like, a rating system or whatever. It's just kind
Yeah.
of, they sell whatever they can market. And that's a huge thing in the market right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. All right. So I don't know, Brock, you haven't jumped in about her asking questions about her finding books in the dumpster or anything.
No, I haven't. But I've been secretly behind the scenes here, trying to delve into her answers to what I think I know is the lie, I believe.
Okay. So are we ready to go for it? You ready to
I
give
think
your
so.
guess?
I think I'm ready. What makes it
Okay.
a little bit tricky here is that anytime you add numbers to these two truths and a lie, it really throws you off, because the lie
Yeah.
could be I only dumpster dove once, or I was only in the back of a police car twice.
Yeah.
And the driver's license age is could be true or not. That's not necessarily a rare thing nowadays. And so, but I think that I think the lie is the police cruiser 3 times. I think my odds are good that maybe it was only twice or less. That maybe you've been in the back of one, Erin, but maybe not 3 times. So I'm gonna throw that out, and then I'll let you go, Marcus.
Okay. So I've made a habit of always picking something different than you, but I think today I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to say ridden in the back of a police cruiser 3 times is the lie. That's my guess.
All right.
All right, Erin. How'd
Well,
we do?
you gentlemen are correct.
Ah,
It's only been twice, and that's like because I didn't get my driver's license until 19 when I had a job. My boss would give me lots of rides to work, and her husband was a police officer, so he also drove me home because and because it just worked out, because she was really nice, because she's like, you don't have to walk home, we'll take care of that for you. But it was a little eerie to like sit in the back of a police cruiser, and I'm like, I'm not a criminal, I promise.
We'll
a
give you a
very
ride
safe,
home.
trustworthy source
Yeah.
to get a ride from, though, right?
Yeah.
So
We just have to pat you down before the ride home. That's no big deal.
yeah, duck your head before we put you in. But yeah, otherwise you're good.
Well, even though we tied, because you actually guessed that it was 2 times instead of 3, I think you take it.
I take the W on this one,
I think
which
so.
I think puts us even now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to give that one to you because you were so exact
appreciate that. Yeah.
in your,
Mhm.
As it should
so,
be.
all right. Well, Erin, it was so great to talk to you, and everyone out there listening, look in the description for her website and her links. Check out her book and follow her so you hear when the next book comes out and the audiobook comes out. There's a lot of exciting projects that she's working on right now, so we look forward to see where you go and all the books and movies that you release in the future. So thank you very much for being on the show with us.
Yeah,
Thanks
great
for
to have you.
having
Thanks,
me.
Erin.
Yeah.